God forgive me. That was my inner thought, you know. God forgive me. I think I'm going to die now. Then after that, I have to do what I had to do.
Oh, I've lost control.
I have control. Dex, check the pressurization loss. Be prepared.
Check the QRH form.
Although the autopilot instantly corrects the aircraft's bank to the right, the effect of the blast is far from over.
There was a loud bang which woke me up. I could feel the plane expanding from the pressure. I saw smoke as well as debris falling like powder.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stay in your seat.
The injured people were trying to get away from the area where the bomb was.
I stood up and saw that a lot of people were bleeding. I thought my life was over.
Stay in your seat, please.
The cabin crew's first priority is to stop passengers leaving their seats. Yukihiko Osui is sitting in the row directly behind the explosion. Both his legs are badly wounded. Steward Fernando Bayot moves him away from the blast site.
Please sit down and fasten your seatbelts.
Bayot now turns his attention to Haruki Ikigami. He is swallowed by the smoking hole where seat 26K used to be.
I saw this man, only his head and his arms were peering out of the hole, so I tried to pull him out.
After the struggle to lift him out, Bayot realizes that Ikigami has been severely injured by the blast. Within a couple of minutes, he dies. The cabin crew do not want Ikigami's death to panic passengers, so one of the stewardesses pretends to minister to him. Bayot then reports to the captain.
Oh, Captain.
Okay? Keep the passengers calm. Make sure they stay in their seats. There's been an explosion in row 26. One dead and several injured, and the cabin's full of smoke. There's a hole in the floor. Go inspect the damage, Dex.
Yes, sir.
The captain's first concern is that the blast could make a hole in the aircraft's skin. This would lead to sudden depressurization in the cabin and to necessitate an emergency descent.
There was a huge gaping hole beside her, and if a small tear in the skin of the aircraft was, if there were a hole there, it most probably would open up and then pull us out of the aircraft. When I saw that there was no damage to the outer skin, I went up and reported to the captain. Well, we assumed that the pressurization system would hold.
Immediately after the explosion, the co-pilot's steering wheel slams to the right, and the aircraft banks in the same direction. The autopilot immediately corrects the deviation, but soon Reyes discovers that the autopilot's steering system is another victim of the blast.
Then I said, okay, I'm going to try to turn the airplane using the autopilot, but there was no reaction, whether I tried it to make it go down or up, or left and right turns, no reaction. I said, now we have a problem.
This is not Captain Reyes's only problem. The passenger seated in the row behind the explosion is severely wounded and needs urgent medical attention. Tokyo is still 2.5 hours away. Reyes decides to try and land at Naha Airport on the Japanese island of Okinawa, some 70 kilometers to the west. He orders the co-pilot to make a mayday call.
Yes, sir. Naha, Pile 434, heavy declaring emergency. Explosion on board. We have casualties. Request emergency landing at Naha. We will need full emergency.
Getting the Japanese air traffic controller to understand the emergency proves difficult.
Naha, Naha, Naha. This is Philippine Airlines 434, flight level 330. A bomb has exploded on board. Bravo, Oscar, Mike, Bravo. Bomb explosion. Request emergency landing at Naha.
And there was silence. Then the controller came in, another controller, an American. Okay, Philippine 434, I'm taking over.
The American air traffic controller is from a U.S. base on Okinawa.
Turn left, heading.
No, I shot back. We cannot turn at this moment yet. We will tell you when we are starting to turn towards Naha. We have problems with our flight controls.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We will be making an early landing at Naha Airport in Okinawa. We'll be landing as soon as possible, so please remain in your seat with your seatbelt fastened.
But landing at Naha is easier said than done. The autopilot is not responding to any of Captain Reyes' commands, and PAL 434 is heading straight past Okinawa. Captain Reyes must find a way to steer the 747 to have any chance of landing safely. But disengaging the autopilot might result in losing what little control he still has over the aircraft.
Okay. Let's keep the seatbelt sign on. When we disengage the autopilot, we might lose control, so be ready.
Since the autopilot won't react to any inputs that I make, I was scared if I disengage the autopilot, the aircraft might make a sudden bang to the right that we might not be able to control.
At a count of 3, I'll disengage. 1, 2, 3.
One, two, three. Nothing happened. And then there was, we were relieved.
I can't turn using the controls. Looks like the explosion jammed the aileron. Dex, what's the QRH say about jammed ailerons?
The QRH, or Quick Reference Handbook, is the pilot's Bible that lists procedures that must be followed in emergency situations.
Jammed flight controls. Use maximum force possible, including both pilots if required.
Okay. Let's force it.
Captain Reyes tries brute force to activate the ailerons, the panels on each wing which turn the aircraft. Since the explosion, he can only fly straight.
Not getting anything from the ailerons. Can't get off this heading. Okay. Re-engage the autopilot while I work out our options.
It's taking much longer to land than was announced.
We were told it would only be 20 minutes, but it was really 1 hour before we landed. It was very frightening.
Although they survived the bombing, passengers are now getting anxious about landing safely at Naha Airport.
Since there was so much time before landing, I started writing a will. I wrote the will to my son, telling him to be strong.
As PAL 434 is about to leave Okinawa behind, Captain Reyes comes up with another plan.
We got it turned. We'll have to use differential power. Disengage auto throttle. Pull back 3 and 4.
Captain Reyes increases thrust to the engines on the left-hand side of the plane and reduces power to the engines on the right. Very slowly, the aircraft starts to circle right. He then lowers his speed to make a tighter turn. With guidance from air traffic control, he hopes the maneuver will eventually line him up with the runway at Naha.
So while we were descending on low speed, I tried to test the flight controls, and there are some little reactions.
The elevator is beginning to respond.
The elevator is a control that makes the plane ascend and descend.
250 knots. Flaps 1 on.
In order to land safely, Captain Reyes will need at least minimal control over the elevator and rudder. As PAL 434 nears Naha, he continues to reduce his airspeed.
Flaps 10.
Flaps 10 set. Speed 225.
Okay, she's turning.
Sir, if we reduce our weight, we will be able to reduce our approach and landing speeds. Suggest we dump fuel.
Sige, magaling.
Reyes orders the flight engineer to dump 36 tons of fuel. Less fuel means less strain on landing gear and brakes at touchdown.
Check.
As they approach the airport, Reyes worries that the bomb may have done more as yet unknown damage to the aircraft.
I'm not certain our landing gear will hold up. Strap yourself in. I'll brief the purser.